From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stump, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, and there's a test match going on at Yorkshire County Cricket Club up at Headingley in Leeds. It's the club which is looking to reform in the midst of ongoing racism allegations. Meanwhile, looking across the Atlantic, noting that in the Caribbean there is a new 60 cricket tournament starting. So not even the 100, 60 balls, although it's not that much different to a T10 tournament, which already takes place in some places, 10 overs of 6 balls each. But this has got different rules. It's only a small tournament at the moment, and they're not dispensing with the T20 Caribbean Premier League. But interesting development nonetheless. And since I last spoke to you, we've had gorgeous weather here in the UK, and I've managed to do a bit of paddleboarding and getting back on the horse as well. So I've been absolutely making the most of it.
Hugh Maxwell in Sydney. I suppose the word that goes out at the moment, and we'll get to that subject at some point as we travel, is Lisa Sthalekar, the first woman to be made president of the Professional Cricket Association, FICA. What a big development that is for cricket, and specifically, of course, women's cricket. Well done, Lisa. Terrific.
Yeah, well done, Lisa. This is Sunil Gupta for All India Radio in New Delhi, and you were talking about the weather in England, Ali. I remember Jim talking about the rain in Sydney many, many months ago. And in Delhi, it was very hot. I don't know whether you remember that song by America called A Horse with No Name. And there are 4 lines in it which says, the first thing I met was a fly with a buzz and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. And I can tell you that sums up Delhi and North India especially. Nevertheless, the other hot topic in India, of course, is the composition of the T20 World Cup team, as you can understand, that's flying around. And the big name that's doing the rounds is no other than DK, Dinesh Karthik, who I cannot recall, maybe Jim, Ali, you can tell me, anybody who from cricket commentary, international panel of TV commentators, went back and played for the national team in a T20 or any other international game. I mean, yeah, this is fairy tale stuff. That's actually what's happening.
Yeah, lots going on, that's for sure. Sunil, great to have you with us again. We've got lots to get stuck into this week. So let's start off with the fact that the life of a cricketer can be chaotic at the best of times. Now, just imagine starting the year playing in the Pakistan Super League, then crossing to the Indian Premier League. No time for a stop because you're straight back to England for the T20 Blast and the 100, but that's not the end, because there's even more air miles then, flying across the world to take part in Australia's Big Bash League before making it into your country's squad for the T20 World Cup. Welcome to the life of Australian cricketer Dan Christian, or I should say what should have been the life of Dan Christian. Like many, the global COVID-19 pandemic really changed his schedule in the last year, confined him to biobubbles, and forced he and his pregnant partner, Georgia, to find some way of living a, quote, normal life, preparing for parenthood in what was far from ideal circumstances. But they got through it. Now, a few days ago, Jim Charu Sharma and I spoke to Dan and began by asking him about one of the key themes in the book, which is his Indigenous heritage.
Yeah, it was something I've always been really proud of, and that was drummed into me as a child through my dad and my dad's side of the family. Always grown up knowing about it and being taught to be proud of it. So that's just carried on through my adult life. Funnily enough, it's become more prevalent really in cricket circles, I guess, in the last 5 years or so, where I think as a society or particularly as a sport, we've become much more, I guess, tolerant and open of people from other backgrounds. So that's one thing that the Indigenous stuff's been a bit more prevalent for me, I guess, the last few years, and being a bit more vocal on the way that Cricket Australia are progressing in that space. Yeah, so Gideon and I touched on it a bit at different stages throughout the book. There's obviously a few things have happened the last couple of years with the way that Cricket Australia have progressed the space. With Johnny Mullen medal, Scott Boland winning that last year was fantastic. Ash Gardner's progression as a player and how vocal she is in the space as well. I just think it's all going in a really nice direction.
And you played a role, didn't you, in the decision that was made by the Australian team to kneel when the West Indies team were touring?
Yeah, we spoke about it a lot. There was a bit of blowback with the Australian team last year or 2 years ago when they came over to England and played that one-day series. I spoke to Aaron Finch a lot about it, and basically my stance around that stage was if the West Indies are going to do it and they're hosting us, then I think we should be basically following whatever their lead is and respecting whatever line they want to take, really, as long as it's not too extreme, which of course it's not going to be. So that was from my perspective a pretty easy decision for us, and to take that to go down that path, and all the boys were really receptive to it, and and it's a reasonably minor gesture, I think. It's such an easy thing to do, just to kneel, but it shows so much respect for how strongly the other teams feel about it.
It's been a crazy couple of years for everybody, Dan. You were there for the birth of your daughter, Harper. There's a lovely picture in the book with the caption, born 12 hours after I finished a game and 48 hours before leaving for the next. Must be a ridiculous time for you, and how special a time, and yet you couldn't really sort of eat into it, could you? I mean, you had to run away again. Yeah,
that was one of the beauties, I guess, of Georgia had a cesarean, which was all planned, and she's been so accommodating and still so accommodating. So she made sure that we had it perfectly in between games, just to sort of lessen the disruption on the both of us, and meant that I was still able to play and then be there for the birth as well. So yeah, she's been amazing all the way through. Really lucky for me. And we had games. I was lucky. We had game in Sydney the day before, and then a couple of days after we were down in Launceston for a quick fly out, and and she almost pushed me out the door and told me to go. She had the midwives looking after her still, so and there's not much I can do really at that stage. So yeah, she was fantastic.
You end the book by saying this was the year that your life finally broke through your career. Just expand and clarify what you mean by that exactly.
Beautifully written by Gideon, that piece. I just think I've put so much time and effort into cricket over the last almost 20 years or so now. And I guess having now had that life change of having a daughter, your just whole perspective on everything changes. Cricket's always been number one for me, and everything else has been number two. Whereas I've just had this instant change where Harper's number one, and everything about her and her well-being is first and foremost, and everything else comes second. So as Gideon said, he put it so beautifully, just saying that life's broken through cricket finally.
Well, it's wonderful to know that life and family is front and centre for you now, and it's a wonderful shift, beautifully written by Gideon and beautifully communicated by you, Dan, in all your conversations with him. Thanks for sharing the story with us on Stumped. I think it's quite an important one to communicate as well, giving that insight. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Next on Stumped, if you remember the early hours of the 24th of February, Russian forces invaded Ukraine. They entered from the north, south and east, with a key target of the war to capture the capital, Kyiv. Now, the chief executive of the Ukraine Cricket Federation, Corbus Olivier, was living in Kyiv and taking his 4 dogs for a walk when he heard bombs and missiles landing nearby. And he spoke to us on Stumped that very morning.
We were walking outside and I heard about 18 huge explosions, like it was right next to me. So I knew immediately what was happening. I rushed into the apartment, brought my dogs in. So I heard they bombed apparently military bases just around Kiev and also Borispol airport. That was the blast we heard. And as I'm sitting here, they say the tanks are coming in. There's video footage from Belarus, which is only 2 hours away from Kiev. The ground troops are coming in with their tanks.
Wow, that was quite extraordinary. And those explosions that Corbus heard signaled the start of the invasion. Some residents chose to flee to safety. Corbus, at the time, intended to stay in Kyiv and continue his work, but the situation did soon escalate. I'm pleased to say, though, that 4 months on, Corbus is safe and well and joins us now. Corbus, welcome back to Stumped.
Hi,
simple
hello,
question
Alison.
is, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me back. Lovely to talk to you guys. I'm a lot better than I was. I think it's about 4 months ago, the last time I spoke to you. I'm a lot better. I'm in Zagreb in Croatia with my 4 dogs.
Okay, so how did you get them from Ukraine to Croatia? Fill in that blank.
Sure, that's quite a blank. And I said, yes, it was quite a journey. We ended up, in the end, they were bombing Bucha and Irpin, which is literally 15 minutes down the road from me. So I understood at that time I have to get out. I can't stay. My original plan was to stay, but I knew I had to get out. So I paid a guy to drive us in his private car to a little town called Ivano-Frankivsky in the west of and in Ukraine. It's very close to the Polish border. I spent 5 days there in a refugee shelter with the dogs, a school that they converted into a shelter. I then again paid somebody to take me in a private car with me and the dogs to take us across the border into Poland. I settled down in a little village outside Warsaw, but then again they changed the law. The Polish government changed the law, and not being a Ukrainian citizen, but only on temporary residence sort of status, I had I had 15 days basically to leave Poland. So at about 11 o'clock the one night, I had about 3 days left or 2 days left of my stay in Poland. I bought a car cash. I paid a guy 1,000 euros, and I bought an old station wagon 1996 Audi. So the next morning, 6 o'clock, I had the dogs in the back, and I started the trip to Croatia, which I thought was quite a good place to go. We drove through Hungary, and at the Hungarian border, I had problems again. They wouldn't let me out of Hungary because they said I don't have a Schengen visa. They wouldn't listen to any explanation. So I got stuck there for about 3 nights, sleeping in my car. Eventually, my ambassador, the South African ambassador in Ukraine, stepped in and assisted me on sort of diplomatic level to get out of Hungary into Croatia. And I've been here for about 2 months now in Zagreb, the capital.
Goodness. I mean, you are an exceedingly positive person, Corbus. Were there times there where, you did hit lows, and that was quite an extraordinary journey?
I think my years of playing cricket as a player helped me a lot. Cricket, you get your lows, but you've got to come back. You can't give up. You take each day, each innings at a time. And I learned so much from my years playing cricket that I actually applied in this difficult time. You go through a slump. I was an opening batsman. Well, I went to Scotland to play as a pro. And my first 4 innings, I got 0, 0, 0, 0 in Glasgow. I just couldn't play on those wickets and the rain and wet wickets. And I came back and I ended up, I had a reasonably good season. So you always find a way, you improvise, you find a way, and you survive. And I think cricket has taught me so many lessons.
Nice to see you again, Corbus.
Hello, Jim.
It's clear you've had cricket on the sidelines for a bit, organising your life and your dogs. But I understand that you have been teaching cricket to some refugees in Croatia. Tell us about that.
Yes, I just can't get away from cricket. Cricket follows me. I left Dubai and I went to Kiev originally. I thought I need a break. I've done cricket for over 40 years. I want to sell wine, and I don't even drink, but I just thought I'll do something new. Time for a change. And then I got to Croatia, and I went for a walk in the park, literally, and I saw kids in the park, and I heard they were speaking Ukrainian. So I walked over to them, introduced myself, and started speaking to the moms and the kids. And they were all refugees. And then I spoke to them, and apparently there's about 13,000 Ukrainian refugees in Croatia now. And the majority is in Zagreb, being the capital. So I got this idea. I said to them, listen, if you want, I can speak to the guys at the Croatian Cricket Federation and get some kit. And we can start a bit of cricket in the park. It would give the kids something to do. And that just snowballed.
And apparently this has spawned something called the Ukrainian Freedom Cup. Tell us about that.
Yes, I'm incredibly excited about it. I thought, actually, when I saw the Ukrainian football team playing and, the support from the whole country, and then Eurovision, I thought if I could do something similar, a little bit out of the box for these kids. They're only 6 years. Most of them are between the ages of 6 and 10. boys and girls. And I thought, can you imagine if you can get them in Ukrainian uniforms with Ukrainian flag and they actually representing their country, Ukraine, how proud they will be, what it will mean to them, especially at this difficult time. And I got this idea of hosting I've got the kids here, so I thought let's host the Ukrainian Freedom Cup for little kids softball cricket ages 6 to 12. And I've invited the Czech Republic, Slovenia, Hungary, and also Serbia, 4 more countries to come and send their teams of little youngsters to come and play. And we'll have 2 teams from Ukrainian refugee teams, and 1 from Croatia, obviously. So it will be altogether close to 6 countries being represented by these little kids, 6 to 10 years old, and we're going to call it the Ukrainian Freedom Cup. I hope that will be an annual event, and hopefully in the next year we can host it in Ukraine, in Kiev, but we'll be hosting this one in Zagreb. And I'm very excited about the project, and I have to say thanks so much to the MCC Foundation. They've been unbelievably with their assistance, and on that weekend as well, they will play a huge role in this Freedom Cup Day.
Corbus, this is Sunil Gupta from New Delhi, India. And I can tell you what I've heard from you, not just now, but your earlier interview as well, has been such a huge inspiration. Anyway, when you last given stumped, you've been in the process of applying for Ukraine's associate membership with the ICC. As we know, the war situation still continues in the east of Ukraine, especially. So what's happened with that associate member status? Is there still some hope you're getting there?
It's all on track. It's our application is on the table with the ICC membership committee. They will be meeting in Birmingham in the last week, somewhere around the last week, towards the end of July. Our application is on the table. Obviously, a few of the criteria, I hope they will adjust it a bit. So everything is on track. We can't preempt it, but I'm incredibly optimistic.
Corbus, keep up all your good work, and we wish you well in Croatia, and fingers crossed for the associate membership. That is Corbus, the chief executive of Ukraine Cricket Federation, back on Stumped again. Well, that is it after this week's Stumped. Thanks to Jim Maxwell and to Sunil Gupta, and of course to all of you for listening. Do join us again next week. We'll see you then. Bye for now.
From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.